To be able to figure out and like change a dog's behavior, we need to figure out why they're doing it and what they're getting out of it, and then we need to take that away. So for him, biting the leash is either a way for him to, before you were using the chain, for him to get away, right? So that was fun for him. So the chain fixed that, because now biting the leash isn't going to be a successful way of escape. And then the other aspect of it for him is that it's like a fun game of tug of war. So if I don't participate in the game of tug of war, then ideally over time, the fun of chewing on the leash is going to dissipate as well. Yeah, with those collars, like the prong collars and stuff, like we're going to start with one of those today, just a plastic one. The key to a lot of them is that you have to know how to use it on the dog. A lot of times with the prong collars, because of the way they look, we almost like just hope that when the dog pulls, they'll hate it enough that they stop pulling, and that's usually not going to happen, especially with a dog like this. So you kind of have to be the one that applies the corrections and the pressure to it to teach him how to avoid it. Otherwise, if he's able to just pull, he'll almost kind of like numb himself out to the pressure, and then it's nothing, it's pointless. So we'll work with him a little bit with this type of collar today, see where we get, and then ultimately we'll use the e-collar. So that's going to be ultimately the tool that we'll use long-term to enforce everything, but we're going to use the prong collar initially to teach some of the basic behaviors and stuff like that. So we'll work on leash walking, we'll work on all this stuff like sits, downs. We teach a bed command, which is if you tell him to go to his bed, he goes there, he stays there. So that way you have somewhere you can put him in the house where if you have guests coming over or whatever it might be. Off-leash recall. So if he's off leash and you tell him come, he'll come to you. Things like that. And then obviously we'll use those commands to start creating more structure and addressing like the behavioral side of things. Resource guarding truly is just like, I would say it's something that a lot of dogs just kind of inherently or genetically either born with or not. So it's something that he'll probably always have like an inclination towards, but you, with training and accountability, you can make it to where it's, you know, almost unperceivable to a certain point, you know, because he knows that there's structure and consequences for how he behaves. Right now, he's just behaving however he wants because he knows there's no real accountability for it. So once we add that in, we'll be able to see a bigger difference. I'll take him from you. And then you can have a seat over there. Come here, big guy. Hi. What's up? How's he do if you take him to like the vet or anything like that? Vet appointments. Great. Pretty good?
Yeah. Like literally his only problems are like when I walk around my neighborhood and then like if I have like other dogs. Like, you know what I mean?
The other dogs are the main thing at this point.
And it's just like, it might even just be me being on edge. She's like feeling my edge.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely could. Here's the leash biting.
Yep. I have to walk around with a...
This is why you have a chain leash, huh?
Straight into the face like a cat.
Yeah.
Like
When I was reading that, I was like, I like this, Adam. You're giving it, you're trying, you know, you're trying to get this figured out. Honestly, with the leash biting, because this is a chain and he's not going to be able to do anything to it, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Just kind of going to let him figure out that it's not really going to work. With the prong collar, so like what I talked about earlier, how I'm going to use it is I'm not going to wait for him to pull. As soon as he starts wandering off and getting away from me, I'm adding a tug and a leash correction before there's even any tension on the leash. Because I want to be the one that's establishing that boundary, not him. And you see how much more responsive he is to it, rather than when he can kind of ease himself into that pressure.
Yeah, you just see me walking in the neighborhood and doing this for fighting, and like, I'm trying to pull a leash out of his mouth, and people are like driving by like, go around like Chatfield over in West Park.
Oh yeah, he's just making a scene.
Making a huge scene.
Yep.
First time he bit through his leash, I didn't know I had to carry him home.
Oh my gosh. You had to pick this big thing up and carry him home?
We're almost home.
Oh my gosh. You're just throwing a little temper tantrum. You don't like being told what to do. There we go. That's better. Good job. You have a very smackable butt. It's like a little shelf back here.
He like smacks, pats.
Right.
He just likes being touched, that's all.
And too, like a lot of times dogs with leash biting, they like the conflict of it.
Yeah.
So as soon as he starts biting at the leash, if there's any like pressure of him pulling it from me, I'm almost giving it to him.
Okay.
Because the tug aspect is what drives them to continue doing it.
Okay.
So if he bites at the leash, oh, good job that time. You thought about it and you didn't do it. I want to make it as little fun for him as possible,
Right.
essentially.
Okay.
To be able to figure out and like change a dog's behavior, we need to figure out why they're doing it and what they're getting out of it, and then we need to take that away. So for him, biting the leash is either a way for him to, before you were using the chain, for him to get away, right? So that was fun for him. So the chain fixed that, because now biting the leash isn't going to be a successful way of escape. And then the other aspect of it for him is that it's like a fun game of tug of war.
Right.
So if I don't participate in the game of tug of war, then ideally, over time, the fun of chewing on the leash is going to dissipate as well.
Shit. I feel bad. His tongue start bleeding. Like, he really was chewing on it.
Yeah, these guys, they have a pretty high pain tolerance. So stuff like that, they don't even really seem to notice a lot of the time.
At the house. Like, my goal, like when I'm disciplining him, is to like scare him.
Yeah.
Like yell at him.
Yeah, more of the mental shock more than anything. Oh yeah.
Just like a jump scare. Like,
Oh yeah. Well, and that's, yeah, because with the spray bottle or even like correction tools, like, have you ever heard of a pet corrector? You know what that is? It's literally like a can of compressed air. So it makes like a really loud, like hissing noise. It's like a big version of those old things that you'd like clean computer keyboards with. That's another type of correction that it works off of like startling the dog.
Okay.
You know, so there's definitely corrections that work off of like a pain mechanism, or there's corrections that work more off of like a startle mechanism.
Like if I really gotta give him one, like I'll 2 fingers, like right on the end of his nose. Like,
Sure,
like,
sure.
One of those. Like that's as far as I go, as far as like.
Yep.
And then like the puppy, he's doing something, I'll like take him up by the back, his back skin.
Yeah.
That hurt, like that's what the moms do.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, like a scruff.
Yeah, just like, like, and then deep voices,
That can be effective with puppies. Yeah.
as far as
The way you determine what's effective as an aversive is, does it change the dog's behavior?
yeah.
Right? So like with kids, depending on what the kid's personality is, different corrections for them are gonna work in different ways, because like for me, timeouts when I was a kid were great. I wanted to be left alone. So a timeout was not an effective punishment, and it definitely wasn't gonna make me change my behavior the next time, right? Whereas another kid, a timeout would be terrible. So for a dog, you determine, was it aversive by, did their behavior change then in the future at that point? There we go. Good job, Stanley. Very nice. Right now, my only rule is that he just has to stay with me. So I'm not asking really for anything else. Just that he stays put. He said, well, that was weird. Every time he wanders off, just bringing him back. And again, I'm making sure that I'm the one adding pressure first. So he's wandering, I bring him back.
So you're like just not letting him go on the show.
Exactly. He wanders away, I bring him back. Whatever direction he decides he wants to go, we're going the opposite way. That's really what it comes down to right now.
And is the goal like tire him out or confuse him?
No, the goal is that he learns every time I stop following her, that pressure on my neck happens. So if I want to avoid that pressure, I should just stay with her. That's essentially what he's learning. Thank you. I'll take that back. Right? He's like, what's going on? Right? He's like, eventually it'll work, promise. It'll work eventually. And then there, if we have moments where he kind of fights against the leash pressure and doesn't want to follow, we have to follow through and get him to follow us on that. Otherwise, he learns then that we're going to be the ones that yield to him adding pressure, right?
He can go all day.
Yeah.
Like, he's waited out all day. So it's like a stand, like me standing my ground.
Oh yeah, 100%. You have to be
Like
more.
Like I gotta be the last one to look away.
Yeah, you have to be the one that's willing to follow through on your expectations and your boundaries. And so even with things like that leash biting, I don't care how many times you bite the leash, I'm still gonna take it back, and then we're gonna keep working on what we were working on, and it's not gonna get you out of doing what we're working on.
Right.
Very nice.
I think my fear.
Good job.
When I was like thinking of trying that, my fear was that you would never get tired.
Yeah. And that's where your attitude a lot of times with certain dogs has to change from like, I don't know if this is going to work, to it's going to work. Yeah. I have to make it work. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
so I'm saying this is more for me than
yeah.
Than,
Good job, bud. Good job. Thank you. And because he is so affection driven and he likes interaction with humans and stuff like that, we can really use that to our advantage when he is successful. Yeah. So I haven't given him much affection or tried to, coddle him or do anything this whole time. But when he is doing what I need him to do and being very polite, now he can get all the pets and the love. And then ideally that'll motivate him to be like, wow, when I do the wrong thing, not very pleasant. When I do the right thing, then I'm getting something I like out of it.
Okay.
Good job. And bring him back a little bit. Good boy. So there again with that leash.
Is this effective to do like in the house?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, at this point, the quality of how he walks with you on leash is more important than like where you're doing it and how far you're traveling and that kind of thing.
Right now with all the snow.
Yes.
We haven't been going for any walks.
Yeah. So doing this in the house is great. Doing this once maybe the weather is a little nicer, you could literally just go like up and down the driveway or back more the front of the house, or you don't have to go for like a proper walk around the neighborhood. He said, God, is that you? Are you here to save me? Right? Good job, Stanley. Very nice. That was a good little portion with no leash biting. Come on.
Yeah, all my buddies were telling me this is what I had to do, but I just didn't trust them. I just see a professional.
You know what? Fair enough. Yeah. There's a lot of information out there nowadays that isn't great. So here, where he's doing like this standoff thing where he doesn't want to come, I'm just making him do it anyways.
Okay.
So, all this nonsense. Again, he starts fighting with the leash. I just take it back. Same thing here. Take it back.
Yeah, And maybe like a year or two ago,
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody, like my vet recommended,
Yeah.
go over and I was like, hey, can you take a look at my dog? And like,
Yeah.
she recommended, let me, like, when he goes and like jumps up on the couch, like, push him off the couch, and, like,
Sure.
stop letting him like do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Wait for me to invite him.
Sure.
Oh, is that helpful?
Yeah, I mean, when you have a dog who's resource guarding and kind of exhibiting the behaviors he is in the house, where he's like bullying the other dogs, essentially, sometimes taking away access to furniture and things like that can be useful, depending on the dynamics. Not because it's like, oh, he needs to be punished for, you know, his behaviors, but more so that him having complete freedom in the house to access furniture whenever he wants and all that kind of stuff leads to that sense of like ownership.
Yeah.
Where if he is on the couch and the puppy comes up on the couch, maybe he'll attack the puppy because he's like, this is my couch, get out of here.
Sometimes it's kind of like that. When he like
Yeah.
comes up behind him like while he's sleeping. But,
Yeah.
But I would just chalk it up as like probably mom taking a nap.
Sure, sure. And some of it could be that, but it also could be inflated, again, by the ego of him thinking that like he runs everything. And so he could come down a little bit hard and heavy maybe on them when he shouldn't. So yeah, I mean, furniture access could be something that's worth looking at. Where does he, what do you do with the dogs when you're not home and like you're gone?
Well, I got a roommate that lives at my house. So one of us is usually there.
Okay.
But I let the dogs just do whatever they want.
Okay.
You know, I used to have a dog guard too. So when I'm not home and I have a big fence in the backyard, not so huge, but
Sure.
it's probably like as big as this room, a little bit bigger maybe.
Yeah.
So I had a dog guard, they would just go in and out whenever they want and just whatever.
Okay.
You know?
I would recommend, especially since we're having some of the issues with him that we are, that you have them separated to some degree, because if you're not home and something happens, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, you're talking like only if there's absolutely nobody in the house. Right?
Yeah, I mean, but also it depends on how involved your roommate's going to be. If he's going to be doing his own thing all day and the dogs are kind of left to their own devices and no one's really supervising, because some of it depends. Like I would say it sounds like with him and your other older dog, you've kind of gotten, I hate to use the word lucky, but maybe a little lucky, in that they've been good. You know, they haven't had any issues. But if he's starting to have issues with the puppy, I mean, I would definitely, if no one is going to be like actively supervising that situation, then the puppy should probably be put in a kennel or put away somewhere.
They both sleep in my bed.
Okay, him and the puppy?
Yeah, should I stop?
Yes, 100%. Because if he and the puppy are having issues over resources, sleeping in the bed is like a ticking time bomb. Something will happen, and you're going to be sleeping, and you're not even going to know what's happening, and you'll wake up to a fight.
Yeah, it was kind of like, so my other dog slept in bed, he's got bad hips and a torn ACL, so he can't get up there anymore.
Yeah.
And then I was just locking him out in bed, so I was sleeping in there by myself.
Yeah.
And then when I got the puppy, I started having him sleep in my bed because I potty training, like if he moves. That's what I do with all the dogs. Like,
Yeah.
Bring him back, this is my third one.
Yeah.
If they get up and walk around, I can take them out and put them back in the bed. You said now he's expecting to sleep in the bed.
Yes. Yes.
Now it's 13 years later with the ones.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And the crate training overnight for potty training, I just set alarm. So I set an alarm to wake myself up to go get the puppy to take them outside. And
He's really good, but he holds it through the whole night.
oh, well then perfect. Put him in the crate, make him sleep in there.
Okay.
And then just do it that way. And I wouldn't let him sleep in your bed either, honestly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so kick him out, and then.
He's in the living room. He pretty much like, he'll come in there when I fall asleep. Then he'll go sleep in the living room. Then he'll come back at like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm about to wake up and like get dinner.
Yeah.
So like, should I just not let him, should I fall asleep without him in there and then not let him back in the morning?
Yeah, don't let him back in.
Okay.
Just leave him
Close
out.
my door.
Yeah, just close your door, and then when you get up and you're ready to start the day, then that's fine.
Okay.
But don't let him kind of manipulate your schedule,
Okay.
you know, at that point.
Yeah.
And then make sure that him and the puppy aren't together when you're when they're unsupervised. So that way you can manage the behaviors a little bit better. Are you sleepy? Are you getting worn out?
If somebody goes up the steps in front of him,
Yeah.
he'll just run up and like knock people down the stairs.
Well, that's very
He has
rude.
no care in the world about knocking people down.
Yeah, I think that's a theme. We're sensing a theme with him that he just doesn't care. He doesn't really take into consideration the feelings of others, whether humans or dogs, you know? So we'll work on that, Stanley. We're gonna work on some self-awareness. He said, I don't have any of that. No self-awareness at all. And then there, the little, so when I was getting him into a sit, I was just using, now you got it stuck on your tooth. Hold on, don't panic, I'll help you. Okay, I need that back. To get him into a sit, I'm just using upward pressure on the leash. If he decides he's then gonna jump on me to be like, no, I don't actually wanna do that. The worst thing you could do in that setting is like allow him to push you out of the way. So if he does that, if anything, I'm gonna walk into him to almost kind of push him out of my space. So again, yeah, so I'm using upward leash pressure to get him into a sit. So I'm pulling up here so that then his booty goes down, and as soon as his butt hits the floor, then that pressure goes away. So again, how he learns, if I stay with her, I avoid pressure on my neck. The quicker you sit, the quicker the pressure on your neck goes away. Okay? So we'll try that again. He was getting frustrated with it and doing this jumping. And so then in those instances, I'm just pushing into him and saying, don't jump on me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just gotta treat him like a bully.
He is. Yeah, he is 100% a bully.
Yeah, just don't let him push. Like,
they're not called bully breeds for nothing, you know? So.
I'm getting it.
So again, same thing there. Now we get back to our leash. Get this back. And again, I'll just wait until he decides. We're not doing any tug of war here. There we go. Okay? Again. Oh, you were a little closer that time. And again, this all comes down to just persistence. You can fight me on this as many times as you'd like, but ultimately, we are gonna end up doing the sit position. So, there. So even there, even though he was still chewing the leash, I just grabbed the collar here to enforce it.
Yeah.
So, fine, but you're still sitting, which is ultimately what I wanted you to do right now.
Okay.
Again, we're not gonna play tug. Same thing here.
That's me when I'm walking. Just getting around, pushing him.
Yep.
It's like bittersweet because you're actually displaying some bad behavior.
Oh yeah, well you get to see kind of how to work through it. The biggest thing with a dog that does this stuff is you have to stay calm. Because if you start getting frustrated and then you get all irritated and you start trying to really manhandle him, that's what he wants to happen. He wants the argument. So if you stay nice and calm, you're not giving him anything to keep fighting with. That doesn't mean we're a pushover. I'm still being very firm about like, you can't climb on me, you have to sit down. Okay? But I'm not gonna use anger to get my point across. Look at that. Good job. Okay. Very nice. He said, well, none of that worked, so here we are. Guess I'll just sit down. Okay.
A lot nicer for you.
Good job. Good boy. Okay. Good job, buddy. Okay.
Notice he's starting to like look at you for direction too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now he's looking at me a little bit more. He's not
Like his source of information.
Yeah, he's like, we're becoming relevant to him. Before you were just the person at the end of the leash.
Yeah.
Now he's like, wow, you can actually like influence my behaviors and how I behave.
Yeah.
So I have to be a little bit more attentive. Okay? And it was very, good boy. And it was very subtle, but did you see one sit ago where he had his front foot on my foot? He put his foot up on top of my foot there. And not to say that there was maybe any intent behind it. It could have been more of like a pushy, rude behavior, or it could have just been incidental. Yeah. Either way, all I did was I just kind of pushed into him so that he was off. Okay. Just because, again, I need him to start being more aware of his body. Yeah. And so if you're going to continually invade my space, then I'm going to make sure I set a boundary to be like, you can't do that. Okay. So whatever his intention was doesn't really matter. We still want to make sure that we're pushing him out of our space rather than allowing him to constantly impede on it.
Okay. And like, okay. So in my house when people come over, they like to come and like lay on their feet.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It depends. You know, if he's being like super pushy and like rude about it, then I say it's probably best to start setting a little bit of a boundary there. Like if you're sitting on the couch, will he come up and like climb out, like walk all over you and climb on you or sit on you, or is he pretty respectful of that?
Really, but new people.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that's stuff you definitely want to stop. Yeah, for sure. Okay, if you used your spray bottle, would that stop him if you corrected him for humping them?
I would just like tell the people to push him off and you'd stop. Okay. Like, he wasn't too like.
Yeah, persistent with it.
Humping, it was more like he just like was trying to like grab him.
Got it, yeah.
Like,
yep, that's just a really dominant behavior. So that's something you could definitely address.
It was always on the couch too. It wasn't like a light one. Yeah. I think I might keep off the couches.
It might be worth it.
Yeah.
We'll discuss, as we progress through, like some little changes like that we need to make along the way.
Would it be different if like,
okay.
If he's allowed on the couch and it's just me in the room, and then he's off the couch when there's like company around?
You could do something like that, or you could do it as like a invitation only type thing. So again, you see here the foot. So we'll just do one of those, just to get him off. Okay?
Yeah, I think I'm going to make him sit and then invite him on the couch.
Good job.
You good boy.
Okay. He said, I'm something. Yeah. To be decided still. Good job. Okay. All right, you're up. There. Go ahead and push into him. Perfect. Very nice. Yep, grab that leash there. Same thing. That was a good choice, Stanley. Really thought that one through. You're right. He's like, okay, I guess not. There you go. But yeah, you can imagine that, like, honestly, starting with doing this in your house is probably going to be best, because he's in this sterile of an environment, he's still arguing with you this much. So imagine you put him with 5 dogs down the street and all those extra distractions, it's going to be a nightmare. So until he can really do this stuff successfully in a pretty easy, sterile environment, then we'll start challenging him a little bit more with the other stuff. So. Very good. Very nice. Yep, right back. Very good. Yep. Very good. He's so dramatic. Yeah, good, very nice.
He really is.
Well, you can tell he's just very averse to pressure.
Okay.
So like you said, when he meets dogs even, like he applies all the pressure, and then as soon as they push pressure back a little bit, then he loses it, right? And then that's exactly what you're seeing here. He's saying, I'm gonna go over here and do this, and then we're saying, no, you're not, and he's like, who do you think you're talking to? You know, and that comes out again. So he's really just has a problem with authority.
Yes, he does. Well, when I got him, it was like COVID time.
Yeah.
And, I kind of let my girlfriend at the time take control of training.
Yeah. Oh, what, you're gonna blame your girlfriend?
Well, it is what it is, you know? Like, she would carry him around all the time and like,
Sure,
on
yeah.
her hip, and like he had no independence and all.
Yeah, he was
And then,
babied.
like, when we split, it was like a different show.
Sure,
you
sure,
know?
yeah.
But he was probably like 2 years old by that point.
Yeah.
So I'd like, you know, she's like, oh, no, she's like, that's a little puppy. I'm like, I really puppy.
Yeah, what you do up to 8 weeks to 4 months is extremely important for their social stability and their like confidence levels. And then, good, that was a really good way to handle that. And then what you do from 4 months old to about 1.5 to 2 years old is where you really define like their role within like your lifestyle and things like that. So it's like in the beginning up till 4 months is really their environmental stability and their socializing and their exposure and their, you know, all those types of things. And then once they hit that adolescent period, before they reach full adulthood at around 2, that's when you deal with the potential attitude issues of really starting to come down a little bit firmer on like, okay, now we got to make sure you know how to function and live within a human world and take authority and take leadership and things like that.
Yeah.
And even though he's older, it's never too late. You know what I mean? What we're going to run into is that as we're seeing, he's a little bit more determined on some of these behaviors because he's been able to get away with them for a very long time. And so the longer you performed a habit, the harder it can be to break it. All right, now I'm gonna have you do some of the sitting. So with the sitting, oh, look at that, beautiful. You're just gonna apply, basically you wanna see if you can use the least amount of pressure possible. And if he's not sitting, then you can gradually increase the pressure. So with these, it's less of the like little tugs that we were doing with the walking and more of like a smooth introduction to the pressure. And then as soon as his butt hits the floor, that's when you'll really sit.
Do that with this? Like if I tell him to sit and he sits, like is that the same? Because usually if I tell him, he'll just do it.
Well, and that's the thing is that I'm okay with that eventually. Right now, because he's so averse to any type of leash pressure, I want to work him through that. So I want him to be understanding that once we apply pressure, you have to listen to it and you can't argue with me. Because ultimately what's going to happen is one day you're going to tell him to sit and he's not going to do it. And then we're going to have to make him. And if we never taught him how to respond to leash pressure, then he's going to lose his mind, right? So we want to get him more comfortable with that first.
So just walk around.
Yep, and then just stop wherever you are and then add that upward pressure. And as soon as his butt hits the ground, you'll let go. So keep that at play. There you go, and release. So your goals this week, you'll take the prong collar home with you, so that's yours now. And then I just want you to work on the walking drills and then some of the sitting with him, with just using the leash pressure, just so that we can work on him, you know, reacting to pressure the way we want it to. If he does any of the leash biting, just handle it like we did here.